This is Leading Detection, a Sedulo podcast where fraud fighters talk tech. Welcome back to the Leading Detection podcast. And today we're going to be talking about cyber fraud. And we're joined by Jose, who is an expert within fraud investigations and mitigations within the big banks. Jose, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Matt. It's a pleasure.
Amazing. So we're going to talk about what it's like inside a big bank when it comes to the fraud prevention machine. So let's start simply. So when a bank spots something dodgy, what is actually happening behind the scenes?
It's a complex question that requires some minutes. The complexity of the fraud is sometimes overwhelming. And as a bank, we have obligations in the country we operate, with the circumstances, with the governance, internal and external, and regulations. So we have to have a very accurate process into place to address the fraud. So we try to categorize. We cannot go random on the fraud. As you may understand, we're a big bank. We have to have a lot of processes auditable with governance, and we need to address the fraud as much as we can, because it's a fraud against us and a fraud against our customers, which is the real value of the bank, its customers. So we try, from the complexity of some frauds, we deeply go and try to decompose. The first thing is understanding the fraud. Within that governance and processing framework, we try to understand how it happens, because if you do not understand what thing happens, you will hardly be able to address it. So we try to find out from simple frauds to very complicated frauds. So simple fraud is, just think the typical case, someone, even in family or colleagues or whatever, just stealing some money from someone else or getting some money from someone else, to very complicated schemes like clear example is North Korea. They try to steal from everyone and get money from everywhere, just to reach the regime. So they have the power, they have money, they are backed by very professional organizations like crime as a service organizations that helps them to reach that. So we have to put in place, as we are, different ways to address the fraud. So first thing first is we try to understand what's going on, understand the fraud, and try to match the fraud with one of our typologies. 99% of the time it happens, but there's that 1% that we see as extreme complexity that we need to analyze. And that's where my team just enters. Our goal here in the bank is try to reproduce the fraud, understand it, reproduce it in a controlled manner, and see how it works.
Yeah. So are you reacting to the fraud when it's such a big bank? Are you reacting, or are you going out hunting it?
That's a very good point. We are addressing at the bank the two postures. We are just reactive and proactive. So reactive in the way you cannot prevent, you cannot reveal the future. So we have to be reactive. So when we see something triggered by our systems, controls, colleagues, or whatever, we have a process to act it. And proactively, we also address the fraud. I might say an example of proactivity is very common nowadays. Every colleague working in the bank knows that is fake e-commerce sites. There are big campaigns of fake e-commerce sites. They look legit, and you go and find whatever Apple device for half a price. That's a very good deal. And you just go there. They're very well built. Just go for the shopping process, and at the end, you just put your credit card. And that's a scam. They just collect your credit card, immediately that's sent somewhere else. So in just answering your question, we proactively search for that fake e-commerce sites, and we have measures into place for the takedown.
So walk us through that. How does that work?
You mean the takedown?
Yeah,
that's quite complicated. Normally, it's not just one website. I remember a case we work with our team. It was a year and a half ago. We just find out just one website from a customer. We have a call from a customer saying, I cannot trust this site. Can you confirm that it's okay? And then you got that information. We got that the one site was very professional, and then we find some weaknesses there, some threads that we can pull from. And we find out, we just land after 2 days of investigation in a network approximately 12,000 fake e-commerce sites. They weren't just to deploy that, it costs thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, and the complexity of that, it was very, I mean, from the top down, you have that fancy look that looks real. I mean, it doesn't look as professional as Amazon or whatever, the professional ones and the serious
Mhm.
ones, but they look correct. And then you can find links on their content, under the domain registration, on the domain certificate. We just dig through all of these parameters and many parameters on the JavaScript inside, on the HTML code, whatever it is. And then we try to map similar places. And then we reach, after 2 days, working very hard. We were like a team of 5 people. We found that 12,000 domains that has an associated e-commerce shop.
Mm. And is that just one occasion? So do you think there's multiple kind of
I
schemes?
mean, that was the biggest one that we
Yeah.
found, but that's very common, and they use very good trickery for protecting themselves. They use registrars in some countries with gray area regulation. They go to CDN, the content delivery networks. They don't go, of course, to Amazon or the big ones that are very professional and they help us. They go to, let's say, some gray area ones that is very difficult for the vendors that we have for the takedown
Mhm.
to work with. So they are not new on the business. They're not naive. They know that we're doing. So probably this is associated to crime as a service.
So it's a whole kind of detective side to this?
That's the part I love. Yes. You have the challenges that you at the first moment you don't have a clue how to address it, and then
Mm.
you dig it, dig it, dig it. Yeah, it's a detective thing. But fortunately we have many tools, very good specialists in the bank that I mean, we are a large team and we rely on cyber guys, another person that are very proficient, very professional. So when
Mm.
we have some requests, they just go to the person, ask this, and they guide us.
And how much are you kind of leveraging the technology? Because on the fraudster side, I mean, spinning up 12,000 fake sites, you need some decent infrastructure
Oh
behind
yes.
them.
Oh, yes, they have a very good infrastructure just supporting them. I mean, this is not something that two friends like you and I just set up on the Sunday afternoon just to see how we can get. No, this is a very professional one. So there's code behind because they. One of the things that surprised me the most is that there were blocks of thematic blocks. So some about sport clothing, some about electronics, some about so very different.
Mm.
The skeleton of the page were more or less the same, but they use different colors. So this is very automated. You need the library of pictures, and we find the library of picture, which is a you just have to pay for the pictures, and you just don't know
Mhm.
whatever they want. So they have a very structured way of work and monies.
Yeah, and obviously these are big fish when you're doing 12,000 sites. It's a big cost. The ROI they must be getting must be significant. But are you seeing the increase on kind of low level operations as well? Because I mean, you could spin up a fake website in minutes, right? And just
Yes,
so
exactly.
is the volume more on that side? What are you seeing?
I mean, the volume in that side is continuous, so we have that peaks like the 12,000 was an exception that in
Mm,
5 years in the bank, I've never seen that, but that's an exception. But normally, yes, we have all of this normal flow of domains. Fortunately, we have very good tools and we have a set of vendors that help us doing that because at the end of the day, you need professional support for that. And we try to detect sometimes we just cannot detect them, but
mm,
we try very hard to detect them, to automate those services, and to bring that information inside the bank and
mm.
then take decisions.
Is it possible? Would it be possible to do it yourself, or is it critical that you need all these different vendors, different technologies, different
I
industries
mean,
all
you can
sharing?
do it yourself just to find some, but at scale for a big
Mm,
bank, because we're in the top 10 of the UK and we have branches in many countries. At scale, you cannot do it by yourself because this is not our core business. Our core business is banking. So we need to rely on vendors. I mean, and they're very good vendors outside
mm,
there. I cannot mention names, obviously, but they're very good vendors there that brings information that they're very keen to discuss any point, and we normally have that interactions
yeah.
with them. So at scale, you cannot do it by yourself.
And what about the big banks sharing their information? So I mean, they've got a great vantage point. They've got a lot of customers, a lot of transactions. Is it a equal sharing?
Yes, that's a very good point. We have to be careful here because we deal with PII from our customers. We should be very careful on what we share. But answering your questions, in the UK, there are many associations that help us in that. The top one that we use is the CDA. That,
Yeah.
by the way, they are hosted in our bank, and they give services to the industry. So normally we rely on them.
Hmm.
We use them for sharing, and they help us somehow with the governance when we are exfiltrating something. We have
Yeah.
our control, but if they fail, they help us, and they spread that into the banking industry, and they help us immensely. So
Mm.
they are part of the game.
All this support, all these technologies, all these vendors, and information sharing is becoming a bit more common and best practices. Do you think they're keeping up when it comes to fighting fraud? What are your kind of vantage point over the past few years?
The point is a classic one. We always behind the
Mm.
fraudsters. We will be, and we will never be able to. And you can see the evolution of fraud. There are people that are very smart, and they're taking the new technologies like AI. They were starting with Gen AI to do whatever they know, whatever they want. So the problem is that fraudsters don't have governance. It's only us having governance. So
Yeah.
they can do whatever they want whenever they want. And we work in a governance framework, we regulatory framework, country laws framework. So we can get where we can get that separate us and put us in the good side of the situation. Yes, definitely we see more and more, not that high as we can see in the hype of the news,
Mm.
but we can see a lot of fraudsters trying to explore new ways. We see some attempts that we cannot understand because we don't see the context that they are testing. We
Mhm.
see some weird tests that flag some part of our journeys that we don't see why they're doing that. And probably they're just trying to test new techniques.
I think I was reading one article was suggesting that fraud incidents are down, but the fraud losses are up. Would you say you've seen something
Yes.
similar?
I think so. I think so. I cannot share more of the figures, but I think this is the trend. So banks are getting better and better. So the let's call it the non-professional fraud activities are more and more taken down, are
Hmm.
more easy to spot. I mean, if it's you and I trying to steal a bank, it's easier because we don't have that pack of monies, technology,
Yeah.
processes, and all that, and people just backing us to do what we need to do. So we are controlling that, I think, very effectively, all the banks in the industry. But yeah, we have that new initiatives that there are much bigger groups behind that. That's organized crime, that's crimes of service, that's rogue countries like North Korea, which is a classic example.
Mm.
They don't care about anything. They have mafias. They just burn people in the middle, like mules, like whatever, and that's the point. Just let me stop there for a moment. This how sad that we see some cases that is threat actors. They use young people in the university as
Mm.
mules. They just go to young people just starting their careers. They're starting the uni, and they get an offer. So yeah, I can get I don't know, $1,000 just for doing this, just to getting money in my account. Oh, that will not impact me in any way. So I meet a guy in front of the ATM and I can get 100 just for nothing. Oh, let's go for it. I'm a student. I have no money. That 100 will sort my month.
Yeah.
And they go for that. And then they are picked up and they end with a criminal record. And that's so sad. That's so sad. And I think we are trying our best. The industry is trying our best to socialize that risks. Yeah,
Mm.
that's the point.
So once you're involved, can you not claim naivety there? Say, I
I
don't
think
know.
so. I think so. Uni people, yeah, they're young, they are naive, they see easy money. There's no risk. Apparently, there's
Uh,
no risk. I mean,
yeah.
apparently.
Well, I mean, the customer, the end user is front and center, right? That's what it's who it's all about. But how do we protect these people without making their life miserable and having to jump through loads of hoops and create loads of friction and processes?
The only way is education. I think, I mean, we try to do our best in the industry, but I think
Hmm.
universities should have that in the entry talks at the uni. I think I truly believe there should be a fraud talk. the first day of the lecture, or perhaps in the enrollment process, that yeah, if you see all these cases, please do not engage. Just contact someone, point of contact in the university if you have any issue. But just protecting students. I mean,
Mm.
I saw that in some unis already, but it's not all of them.
Yeah. And what about those who aren't in university, for example?
Yeah. University just is not their core again, so
Uh,
they try, as part of the information they provide the students, they, some of them do that and some of them do very well, but some, I mean, they just do it because they think they have to do it. And in my point
mm,
of view, that should be part of the education system. I mean,
yeah.
since you don't need to reach at the university, you can go study whatever. You should be aware of all these risks.
Yeah. And we talk about universities there, but what about other industries as well? So banking, telco, they tend to get put together in the kind of fight against fraud. How important is that?
It is very important at different levels. I mean, that's, you just open a very wide question there. I mean, from customers education,
Mm,
I've seen a lot on telecom companies, banking companies, and related companies just giving you advice how to detect fraud, how to stop fraud. And at industry level, we collaborate. I participate myself in some industry events every month, every 2 months, meetings, recurring meetings. We have telecom companies there, we have banking, we have another industry, and they are working hard. Probably you heard in the UK that initiative from the AI, just stopping, just talking, that old lady voice just talking to fraudsters in the
yeah.
UA. From that, a very well-known company in the UK, and there are much more initiatives. I just came to my mind, just stopping text messages with URLs inside
Mm,
them. I mean, there's so many initiatives. We are doing our best as an industry.
yeah. Because phone call, everyone's aware of scam phone calls, everyone's
Oh
aware
yeah.
of text messages. What's the kind of new frontier for fraudsters? What kind of emerging threats do you see?
I think it's a very good question, because it also depends on the profile of the objective. I
Mm,
mean, if I'm I'm not, I'm just old.
ah,
So my point is that I'm not used to engage with technologies like a 25-year-old is used to engage. So you can,
mm,
by my background and my knowledge, I filter more, but you can see 25-year-old people that they are TikTokers, they are Instagrammers, they just go and they just consume AI generated fake news.
mhm,
So I think we can put them all together and just use this as a disinformation, just targeting people depending on the ages. So you
mhm,
have different frames of ages that you can attack in one way or in another. So there's no point to attack someone who's 25-year-old with a landline, or a 78 person via Instagram. That would be very hard. So they
mm,
try to specialize on their victims, and they use the channel their victims use to communicate with them.
mm,
And there, that's how the problem arises. So you have a lot of platforms that they're not very well at protecting, and probably we all have some names in our head. They're not good at protecting people from fake AI videos. So they use the very same technologies. They have AI agents, and the industry is making a big effort to catch up with technologies, because
mm,
you might think that in the not in the near future, perhaps 5, 10 years, all banks will go to a video audio interface. We'll still keep the lines from just audio, but we'll go to an interaction in video audio to talk to our
mm.
customer. Our customers talk to us. So this is the channel that we communicate with our customers that will be prone to attack. And this is what we are working right now to prevent that.
And do you think you mentioned about age groups there, and say who do you think's more at risk? Because is there a 25-year-old who is a TikToker, is on Instagram, they are aware of kind of fraud threats, they know the platform, they can see things that are a little bit different, or maybe someone's a bit older, 75 years old, they've downloaded Instagram for the first time and they're seeing things.
think I think we're all objectives.
Mm,
They are getting better and better, and technology is not enough to stop. I've been part of AI contest here in London in January, and I remember a lady, she has a doctorate. She's one of the top universities in the UK, and she bluntly said, audio do not, they are so good imitating voices in the
Mm.
audio that we cannot detect that. And I have a demo 1 year ago for one of the big companies in the world, one of the big ones with audio. Remember, there was that lady that designed their system, and she was sharing with us her voice reading a book, okay, generated by AI. And out of the blue, that talk changed to 5 different languages, and it was indistinguishable. I mean, the lady just talked in Chinese, and I don't have a clue. I have to believe that, but there was a moment when that voice turned to Portuguese, which I'm bilingual, and I said, "That's that lady reading a book in correct Portuguese." So it's indistinguishable, as that doctor said in that. So we need to rely on more factors. So, but that leads me to a very good point that I want to open with you, because there's no single silver bullet to detect fraud. So
Mm.
you need to stack controls one over the other and get info from all of them, and then take your conclusions. Banking industry is working on that, has been not working on that since forever. But now with the last changes in the crime scene and the state agents and attack surface, we need to address that. So we have multi-level, multi-layer controls. And at the end of the day, it's not just one control saying this is a
Mm.
fake. It's many different things.
Is it possible to cover everything? Because say if you're focusing on deep fakes and voice detection and you've got that covered, and then you see a spike in, I don't know, ATM cash withdrawals, is it possible to cover everything?
I don't think so, but we're very close. But there is always a gap. There's always a gap that fraudsters exploit that, and the complexity of the systems. And that leads me to another thing that I want to discuss here, which is the same thought that always haunt us. So when we design services, let's go to our app. Well, our app is, in my personal opinion, is one of the best in the market. So we have to make it very easy to use, even for old people, for young people, for middle-aged people like me. So it's very intuitive and very easy to operate. You just want to open it. It has to open easily and fast. But at the same time, that app can be decompiled by state agents and try to see how it works. They try to exploit that app if there's any vulnerability. We got very good metrics on fraudsters scanning our apps nowadays, and they try to do weird things that doesn't match with a normal customer journey. And then we got that alerts, and we see that, and we detect that, and we just go to the customer and said, "Are you doing this?" Nope. So probably there's an account takeover or something going on. We will help you in that. No worries. But the point is that they are trying to find more and more vulnerabilities. So in one side, we have to have every service easy available, very easy to use. And on the other side, we have to fight with our controls to be into place and not be bypassed. And that's the juggle that we're struggling. All the industries, not only us, it's all the industry in that.
Yeah, so the deeper our checks go, the more educated the fraudsters become, and so they adapt. So in theory, you've got your application and you monitor keystrokes. They recognize that you're picking up on the keystrokes, so they improve their keystroke technology, and then we go again.
Yes, it's a cat and mouse game, but yeah, this is the game. This is the game.
I mean, how deep can we go?
I mean, it depends on the technology. And we experience some limitations on the technology because it's not only us. Just think about the two major industry mobile makers, just going Apple and Android, basically is Google and Samsung, the big ones. They have the same dilemma. They have to have the best possible phone, very easy to use, very reliable, never breaks. It's always there, but at the very same time, it has to be secure. So they over-engineer their phones because of that, and not blaming them. They're doing the good job. But we are also facing, when we develop our applications or our interfaces on their platforms, we inherit that limit. So there are certain things that we can see, some of them that we cannot see, and there's a reason for that. So why we cannot access from our app more controls in the iPhone and on the Android? Because it's not only banks using them. So fraudster can make an app and try to exploit that in the benefit. So it's a complicated nightmare that we try to circumnavigate all the industry from
Mm.
Apple, Samsung to us to another vendors.
So is it a good thing or a bad thing that there's only two big players in that space?
That's a good question again. I mean, I would really like to have more players. This is like a monopolies or duopolies in front of open market. I think it's the same concept. I mean, that companies that I have nothing against them, but they have to protect their business, their investors, their brands, and all that. So this is their focus. Their
Mm.
focus is not protecting our customers from the bank point of view. This is our activity. And sometimes there should be some common ground on that. And it's very, very difficult to leverage that. From the engineering point of view and from the functional point of view, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just
Yeah,
pointing at
yeah.
the difficulty, complexities of it.
Yeah. So in theory, if there was maybe 7 to 10 phone platform providers, then it'd be a bit more competitive and you would be able to have more say about the security measures that you have on the app.
How can I put this? Yes and no,
Mhm.
because in my experience, we have some manufacturers from the past that are not more into the game, that they fail in security.
Mm.
And at the same time, we have Android, which is a very open platform. We have some manufacturers overall from Asia where the level of security is not that good as the one provided by, let's say, Samsung or Google, which are more or less the reference in Android. Not talking about Apple because Apple is an ecosystem on itself, but just thinking that you have in Android you have the different levels of security and integration,
Mhm.
and there are some papers that I've read that even there are some information as filtration from some vendors out there, which I don't want to mention the names, but
Yeah, yeah.
papers are there on the open, so our audience can just Google for it.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Well, conscious of time, this is the bite-sized episodes to give some folks some insights and quick tips. But where do you see the technology before we go? Where do you see the technology is lacking? Where are the obvious places we need to improve when it comes to cyber fraud?
I see where it goes, but I don't know how to take it there. I mean, and this is not a layer aspect of technology. I think it goes up and down the whole pile of concepts from people, meaning education, and
Hmm.
be aware of what you do with your phone, with everything. So you should not download apps from somewhere up to the low technical layers where perhaps there should be not the same solution from everyone, but I think the big players here like Apple, Samsung, and all the big brands should give some kind of ability for banking industry and other critical industry like medicine, all that, that we are very controlled. We operate in a very governance state and we are back. At the end of the day, we are critical infrastructure for countries. So that should bring us some credit and they should facilitating our technology somehow that
Mm.
we can get more metrics from the devices just to a restricted set of industries, companies. Same thing like a defense. I just read some papers that when they craft some tools, tablets, whatever for defense, I mean, that's another step. They
Mm.
have access to the code. I'm not asking for that. We are not the military, but perhaps a midterm.
Bit more open, transparency, ability
When
to do more.
Exactly. When you are a big bank or a big industry or a big telco, when you are putting your app there, there should be a process for us to check a bit more.
And your kind of thoughts for fraud and fraud prevention this year? What are you excited about seeing? What's interesting?
I'm excited about how new technologies, how we are addressing new technologies and how new technologies are beginning to be used by fraudsters because we have seen and we have learned that open AI platforms are used by crime as a service infrastructure just to provide more insight just from information gathered from customers to attacks to banks or the industry. The classic model is you see in the past when you see see people saying on their Instagram, "Oh, I'm going to Mauritius for a month in vacations," and you can find where's their home. So at AI level, you can automate that. You can make APIs, you can automate and automatically grab the information. So grab vulnerabilities and level of exposure to find your targets and to
Mm.
act upon them.
We share too much I think I saw people using Rightmove to look at people's houses and then break in.
Exactly. So think that if people are using that manually, that could be done at scale because you can automate that interaction via AI elements with the app. So you can scan, I don't know, whole London space in 3 days and qualify the targets and get pictures from the house, find it in social media, and just categorize your targets and go for them. So you can automate that. Not easy, but you can automate that.
Are we set for a bit of a storm? Is it going to be a tough time? I mean, we've got agentic platforms, we've got a generation, we've got stable coins, we've got crypto, we've got agentic commerce, all these things coming together at once. So are we prepared, do you think?
I think we are rushing to adapt because crypto, as you mentioned, we haven't talked about crypto, is a very good point. One of the way to exfiltrate money is via crypto. So when we get, with our customer gets scam and they go for account takeover and someone gets successfully access to our some of our customers' money, unfortunately, they just send it to crypto, to another companies that provide the change into crypto, and crypto disappears. That's a very, very used scheme from North Korea, just going back to them. So yeah, we are not prepared, and everything is going so fast. We have Gen AI, we have crypto, we have everything all together, all at once, like the movie. And we are trying to put a lot of effort in our bank and in other banks because we have meetings just to discuss this. We are trying to address this as a community because we can be fighting for customers, but definitely we are all together against fraud. This is very good in the industry. We just share initiatives there from fraudster. We just share some information that we can share according to our governance, and we try to work together. That's a very, very good.
Do you think that's a positive for big banks kind of working together and saying, hey, we need to slow this down a little bit when it comes to the crypto drive, stablecoin, etc.?
Definitely. And some of the big banks are not using crypto on their processes, on their journeys, and that's wise. But we cannot influence the industry. You can see so many startups, so many crypto things, and many of them are scams, and you can see some of them are related to politics, and so the scenario is so complex and complicated, and probably you have that. Our audience have that examples in their minds, and it's so complicated to address that we just can't. I mean, we need to follow. We cannot dictate the market. This is the government. The government, I think they are doing a very decent job, try to control that, but it's uncontrollable.
Yeah. I mean, fraud has always been around, always will be around.
Exactly.
It's not going anywhere, but just we have to be creative on how we fight it. But Jose, it's been an absolute pleasure. If anyone wants to follow you, where can they find you? What have you got going on this year?
Oh, you can find me in LinkedIn with my name, and more than glad to answer any question.
Amazing. We'll come back in a little bit later and see if our predictions have come true, how we get on. But thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Matt. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. And to the listeners, until next time, ciao for now. Want to hear more about fighting fraud with tech? Subscribe to Leading Detection wherever you get your podcasts.